Greetings. In the previous lesson, we painted a quick sketch of what a narrative essay is, and in this lesson, we will take a step further and venture deeper within its premises. So, let's get started. Our topic for today is how to write an introductory paragraph of a narrative essay. Let's start with a quick revision of the previous lecture. In the previous lecture, we studied the first type of essay, which is the narrative essay. We defined it as a story about your experience, either imaginary or real. It can also tell a story of somebody's life. So narrative stands for story, plot, history, or a sequence of events. Narrative essays explain stories that have an influence in you or talk about the person that have had some effect on you in one way or the other. We also dealt with the various components of a narrative essay. And we said that a narrative essay has its unique components that distinguish it from other types of essay. And those components are plot, which refers to the main events happening in your essay or story. Setting, it is when and where the events happen. In other words, its location and time. Character, it's a protagonist who drives the plot of the story. There can also be supporting characters. Conflict, it can be any problem that the characters face or a moment of tension during an incident that needs to be resolved. And finally, the theme. It is the most important component of a narrative essay. It is the purpose of the story and the message to be delivered. After reviewing what we dealt with previously, let's discuss the process of writing the introductory paragraph of a narrative essay. But first, let's say something about what makes an introduction. The introduction is the most general part of the essay. It helps to provide a roadmap for further discussion or analysis. You can add everything briefly and tell about what you are going to discuss in the main body. Tell the reader a good story but with limited details. Bear in mind when writing the introduction to provide general information as possible. It is a big mistake to directly dive into specific when writing the introductory paragraph. The introductory paragraph is not the perfect place for including details. Details are to be presented within the body paragraphs, and that is what body paragraphs are all about. You have to be careful when writing the introductory paragraph of a narrative essay if you want to attract your readers. Your introduction must be as appealing and exciting as it can be, because a reader will not bother to go through each and every excruciating and boring detail within your essay if the introduction was not inviting in the first place. Your narrative essay should be clearly structured with a clear introduction. You must have a strong initiation for your story to have a good impact on the readers. The purpose of your narrative should immediately come out clearly from the very beginning. The introduction is an important part of your essay as it grabs the reader's attention. At this point, you might be asking yourself the following. When I write a narrative essay, how can I tell whether my introduction is good or not? Let me provide you with a number of efficient and reliable techniques on the basis of which you can build your introduction. You can say with confidence that you have written a good introductory paragraph for your narrative essay when it meets the following criteria. The first criteria is that your introduction should be short in length. Number 2, it catches the reader's attention. Number 3, it establishes the narrator's voice, tone, mood, and point of view. Number 4, it creates enough interest that the reader will be eager to continue. And number 5, it introduces or alludes to the conflict you plan on addressing in your story. Still confused? Okay, let me guide you to some basic guidelines of writing an introductory paragraph, and in details. Number 1. Begin your introduction with a hook to engage your reader. The hook is basically the opening statement, the first line of any essay you write. It is the instrument of attack in your essay. For narrative essays, the hook is twice as important as it is for the other types of essays. A good hook is the one that firmly grabs the attention of the reader and won't let go. Remember, without an interesting hook, you can lose your reader before the second paragraph. If you are still struggling as to how to hook your reader, let me provide you with a number of applicable techniques by which you can achieve hooking. One of the methods by which hooking is achieved is by injecting your introductory paragraph with a shocking statement. For example, you can say, "I love pizza more than my friends." Or you can make use of some interesting quotes within your introductory paragraph. For example, you can say, "Einstein once said, 'The important thing is to not stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing.'" What about questions? You can always use a question within your introduction in order to attract your reader's attention. For example, you can raise questions like, "What is your favorite music instrument in the world? Mine is piano." And if you ever feel that the previously mentioned techniques fail you, you can always rely on statistics in order to attract your reader's attention. For example, you can say, "The average American spends $1,300 every year." Or, to add another technique within your arsenal, you can present an interesting fact within the introduction. For example, you can say, "Pizza was first invented in Italy, but modern pizza has changed a lot." Now let's talk about number 2 of our guideline. Write some interesting background information. After writing the opening sentence, that's to say the hook, an effective introduction briefly provides some background information about your story that you tell throughout the rest of the essay. The background information tells the history or what happened before the action. Example: "Before I could have a foreign friend, I needed to travel abroad first. I have always wanted to go abroad and make friends around the world." So in the example that I have just presented, the narrator is giving us some background information and preparing us for the main event. In this example specifically, traveling abroad and making friends around the world was something on the narrator's to-do list. Number 3. Describe the setting to set the scene for your story. This point is very important because it is related to specifying or answering the questions of where and when. The setting includes where and when the story happens. Additionally, you can provide sensory details to help the reader experience the scene. For example, "Last winter, I was able to study abroad for 4 weeks in Toronto." Number 4. Introduce the main characters in your story. Your reader needs a clear idea of who the story is about. Name and briefly describe the main characters in your story. You don't need to tell every single detail about them in the introduction, but your reader should have a general idea about who they are, so you can paint a silhouette image of your characters. For example, "While I was studying in Toronto, I met a Canadian girl named Jane." Number 5. Write the thesis statement. This point here is the most important and crucial step within the process of writing an introductory paragraph. Now comes the theme. A narrative essay should always have a theme or a purpose that will reveal itself throughout the rest of the story. Your theme can make for an attractive thesis statement which will be placed at the end of the introductory paragraph. The thesis statement prepares the reader for the main action of the story, but it doesn't tell the whole story. It is just a hint about the main action or event. For example, "It is safe to say that I trusted her from the first sight, but not everything is meant to be." At this point, let's apply everything that we have studied and dealt with within this lecture in the form of an example. This example will give you a general remark of what an introductory paragraph of a narrative essay is. "There had never been a difficult moment in my life as that of making a choice. Making decisions is a hard task. One single decision can change your life. Forever, maybe." So those sentences here represent the hook. This is the point where you start attracting the attention of your reader. I passed my baccalaureate exam with excellence. Then I traveled to Madrid on a holiday for 3 months to ease my mood. Those months passed quickly in a blink of an eye. So those sentences represent the background information. As you can see, within those sentences we answered the questions of where and when. One day, as I watched the taxi driver carrying my luggage on board the ship, I realized that my journey towards university life has just begun. So this sentence here represents the thesis statement, which is the most important sentence within your entire essay. The thesis statement is the focal point, and everything else that you will write in the rest of the paragraphs should have a direct or indirect relationship to this thesis statement. That would be all for this lesson, and thank you for listening.